The Glorious Revolution, 1688. The year was 1688 when King James II, a Catholic monarch, was overthrown. His enemies, led by William of Orange, sought to secure Protestant rule. James fled to France, leaving behind a kingdom in turmoil. His supporters, known as Jacobites, vowed to restore him to the throne. The Battle of Killiecrankie, 1689. In the Highlands, the Jacobites gathered under the banner of John Graham of Claverhouse, known as Bonnie Dundee. The royal army, led by Major General Mackay, marched to suppress them. The two forces met at Killiecrankie, where fierce fighting erupted. The Highlanders charged with brutal force. The fall of Edinburgh, 1689. The Jacobite cause took root in Scotland, where the people were divided. Some cities, like Edinburgh, resisted James's return. The royalists fortified the capital and prepared for siege. Yet the Jacobite forces stormed Edinburgh's defenses, overwhelming the royalists with their numbers. The exile of James II. James II, now living in France, watched from afar as his supporters struggled. He had been promised aid by King Louis XIV, but it was slow in coming. His hopes of returning to the throne faded with each passing year. Though his exile was cushioned by luxury, he yearned for the Scottish throne. The Treaty of Union, 1707. The Scottish and English parliaments came together in 1707, forming the Kingdom of Great Britain. The union was meant to bring stability, but instead sowed resentment in Scotland. Many Scots saw the treaty as a betrayal, a forceful merging of identities. The Jacobite cause was given new life. The rise of the Earl of Mar, 1715. The Earl of Mar, a key Jacobite leader, called for a rebellion in 1715. His goal was to place James's son, the Old Pretender, on the throne. Mar raised the Jacobite standard in Braemar, gathering thousands of Highlanders. The Old Pretender, James Francis Edward Stuart, was proclaimed King James VIII. The Battle of Sheriffmuir, it is 1715. The forces of the Earl of Mar clashed with the royal army at Sheriffmuir. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The royalists were commanded by the Duke of Argyll, a seasoned general. Despite some initial successes, the battle ended in stalemate. The Jacobites were forced to retreat. The retreat to France, 1715. The defeat at Sheriffmuir marked the beginning of the end for the 1715 uprising. The government forces pursued the Jacobites, pushing them further north. The Old Pretender, disheartened and unsure of his future, fled to France. His followers, scattered and demoralized, had no choice but to disband. The return of the Young Pretender, 1745. In 1745, a new hope emerged in the form of Charles Edward Stuart, known as Bonnie Prince Charlie. He was the grandson of James II. A charismatic young man with a vision for restoring the Stuart dynasty. The Highland clans rallied to his cause and he was proclaimed King Charles III. The Jacobite Rebellion was reborn. The March to Derby, 1745. Bonnie Prince Charlie and his army advanced south, capturing key cities and recruiting more supporters. The march was swift and morale was high. Edinburgh had fallen without a fight and the Jacobites were emboldened. They reached Derby, just a few days' march from London, but Charlie hesitated and decided to retreat. The Battle of Falkirk, 1746. In the wake of the retreat from England, the Jacobites sought to regroup. They faced the royal army once more at Falkirk, where a decisive battle would be fought. The Jacobites, led by Bonnie Prince Charlie, engaged the government forces in a desperate struggle. The Highlanders pressed the royal soldiers. The retreat to the Highlands, 1746. After their defeat at Falkirk, Bonnie Prince Charlie and his army retreated into the Scottish Highlands. The Jacobite forces were fractured and scattered, their morale shattered. The retreat was a desperate move to preserve what little remained of the rebellion. The royal army pursued relentlessly. The Battle of Culloden, 1746. The final battle of the Jacobite rebellions took place on the moor at Culloden. Bonnie Prince Charlie's forces, exhausted and poorly equipped, faced the full might of the royal army. The battlefield was muddy, and the weather turned cold and unforgiving. The Jacobites made a valiant charge, but the royal forces held firm. The aftermath of Culloden. The aftermath of Culloden was a grim one. The Jacobite survivors were hunted down by the royal army. Many were executed, others imprisoned, and some were sent to the colonies as prisoners of war. The Scots were subjected to harsh reprisals, and the Highland culture was systematically crushed. The legacy of the Jacobites. Though the Jacobite rebellions were defeated, their legacy persisted. The stories of Bonnie Dundee, the Old Pretender, and Bonnie Prince Charlie continue to inspire generations. Jacobite songs and tales became a part of Scottish folklore. The Highland clans, though broken, kept their traditions alive in secret. The glorious vision of the Jacobites. For the Jacobites, the vision of a Stuart restoration was not just about politics. It was about a return to a lost golden age, one where Scotland could stand proudly as a nation. Their belief in the divine right of kings was unshakable, and they saw the monarchy as a symbol of unity. The Jacobite cause was as much about identity. If you like it, please like and subscribe to the channel to receive all that is new.